when you are doing property management and landlording, do yourself a favor and ask all the qualifying questions. I love it how I meet these realtors and they're just like, they're terrible. They're terrible. They don't know how to interpret credit scores. They don't know how to read trade lines. They don't know how to ask qualifying questions. So here we go. It's not rocket science, right? I'm gonna share with you guys a couple of qualifying questions that you absolutely have to ask every single prospect, anybody that wants to rent one of your properties, a property that you own and a property that you manage. Do not waste your time if they can't answer these questions properly. Okay, question number one, are you working full-time? And if you are you working more than 40 hours? Okay, I don't care, traditional, non-traditional income, that's great. But typically most people are 9-to-5ers and they get paid hourly. So number one, are you working full-time? Are you working more than 40 hours? And number two, how much are you getting paid hourly? You simply multiply by 2. So if the person says, I'm getting paid 20 bucks an hour, then 20 bucks an hour times 2 is 40 grand a year. So ideally, in a perfect world, your rent should never exceed more than a quarter of your expenses. So ideally, if your rent is $1,000, ideally you should be earning 4 grand a month. That rarely happens. So in Illinois, in Chicago, we do 33%, roughly a third of your operating expenses. So ideally, if the person's renting an apartment for $1,000, hot water, heat included, great. Then you should be making roughly 3 grand a month. 7, 14, 21, 28, 700 bucks a week. Okay, that's why 2 incomes is always better than 1, right? So if you're showing a nice 1-bedroom apartment to a cute couple, decent credit, good income earners, you're good to go, slam dunk. So the first question, are you working full time? How many hours? And what is your hourly rate? Multiply that by 2, it lets you know where they're at financially. Also, how long have you been working where you're at? Because if they say, oh, I have a terrific job, but I've only been there a month, well then that sucks. Because now there's just a lack of history that's kind of scary, right? Like, I don't know if you're good at your job or not. I don't know if they're gonna keep you around. If somebody tells me I've been working at my job for 2 years, 3 years, 4 or 5 years, that's great. Anything over 18 months, I love it, I'll take that. How much do you earn? How many hours do you work? How long have you been there? Okay. Question number 2, second qualifying question. Are you currently paying rent? And if you are, is it verifiable? Do you have a lease? Or if you are month to month, do you have rent receipts? And can you also show me docketed or some type of screenshot of your bank account that shows that you've made these payments, right? A responsible person is always gonna have rent receipts. Don't pay your rent cash. I don't want your rent in cash. I don't want you to pay your rent in cash. I don't ever want to accept cash from anybody. Go get a money order at a currency exchange, it's $1. Some places it's only a quarter, 25 cents. Okay, so do you have a job? Do you have verifiable rental history? And number 3, your credit. You don't have to have, your renters don't always have to have high FICO scores, because several times I've had tenants and applicants that have 3 school loans, big school loans, and then they register in the 800s because they're not deferring them. And in this country, we register school loans as active trade lines. So even though the kid doesn't have a pot to piss in, he's got this high FICO score. So if you have a low credit score because you simply lack debt, which is good, it means you don't owe anybody anything, then I'm gonna accept the application. If you have a low FICO score because you have a ton of delinquencies and you just don't pay your rent, you don't pay your debts and your obligations on time, then dude, you suck. You're not gonna get the apartment, period. But I'll gladly work with you if you have a low FICO score because you lack debt. Like me, I have a medium FICO score because I don't have big debts. That's why I keep my money. So number 1, are you working? Number 2, do you have verifiable rental history? Number 3, how's your credit? And if your credit's so-so and you're young, do you have a cosigner? That's it. Other than that, that's the proof of the pudding. The proof is in the pudding, right? Those are the real basic factual things. Then after that, what you want to do is, how does the person present themselves to you? Is there eye contact? Are they well-dressed, well-groomed? Do they speak properly? Do you, half of it is what's on paper. The other half is, are you feeling this person and do they seem like they're a good fit for the rest of your tenants? Because I promise you, your building is like an animal. When you've been doing this long enough, you almost, it's like having a doctorate in psychology, because everybody has different paradigms of thinking, different perspectives. on things, different expectations. So you become really well on reading personality types really quick, and you have to make sure that if you have a young building, you keep it young, right? You don't want to have a really young building and then you put like an older couple on the second floor when you got partiers on the third floor and partiers on the second floor, and vice versa. You don't want to have an older, mature building and then end up putting like, you know, some really young, crazy kids that are going to get out of pocket and drive your older tenants crazy. So that's just a little bit of advice from me, guys. I'm meeting up here right now with one of my tenants. So Callie, is that okay? Can I plug you into this video really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, what I was going to share with you, and I was obviously speaking about this before we met up, here's Callie. The 3 qualifying questions that you guys absolutely have to do prior to landlording, doing property management, or renting out a unit is: number 1, is the person renting where they currently are at right now? How much are they paying in rent? How long have they been there? Is that transparent? Callie, are you renting where you're at now?
No.
But you were. But you were, and it was verifiable, and you gave me proof of that. So I was able to see where she lives. So you have to have a reasonable amount of transparency with your prospect. If there isn't transparency and the things aren't verifiable, then that's a huge red flag. You don't want to do that. Number 2, is the person employed, and are they making roughly 3 times the rent? Are you employed?
I am.
Okay, and then number 3, decent credit. Do you have decent credit?
I do.
She has decent credit. So there you go, guys. The 3 things that I was telling you that are very important: credit history, verifiable income, and credit history, verifiable income, and your job.
Yeah.
There you go. Yay! All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.